Hi there, today I'd like to show you how to make the magic ring or magic circle in crochet for your rounds. And with the sample I have here, you can see that the opening right here in the very center is very, very small. And that's because I used a magic ring when I started working my rounds. The magic ring allows you to shrink that opening and get your stitches nice and tight. And that then creates a nice, smooth appearance to your project. So I'm going to show you how to do this. With your palm facing you, you're going to start out with about 5 to 6 inch tail hanging down. And this tail is important because it's what you're going to use to pull on to shrink the opening so that your stitches end up really close together. And the 5 to 6 inches gives you enough at the end to weave in when you're finished with your project. So what you'll do is just kind of hold that 5 to 6 inch of a tail in place with your thumb, and then you're going to start to wrap this around your index and middle finger. And when you come back around to the front, you're going to cross it over like this. And then once you've done that, you can rotate your hand over so that your palm is now facing down. And then I like to use my ring finger here to hold this in place on the other side of my middle finger. And this now allows me to grab my hook. And you'll notice that you have two strands here. You've got one closest to your fingertips. I like to call that the first strand or strand 1. And then the one next to it is strand 2 or second strand. So you're going to insert your hook under the first strand, closest to your fingertips, and then grab the other strand and pull that second strand under your first one. And then when you do this, do a little twist with your hook. This creates a little loop on your hook so that you can hold your hook in place while you do this next step. And this next step is probably, I'd say it's the hardest, because you have to keep all of this in place while you also remove it from your fingers. So very carefully hold everything in place while you take it off of your fingers. And I'm going to turn mine just a little bit because you want this tail, if you are right-handed, to be on your left side. If you are left-handed, you want this tail to be on your right side, because when we work our stitches into this ring that you see now, we also need to work them over the tail. So you'll see that I've got the tail strand and the ring both here, and I'm going to be working my stitches over those. Okay, so at this point, now that we've gotten it carefully removed from our fingers, we can now chain 1. Or if your pattern calls for taller stitches, like double crochets or triple or treble crochets, you can do chain 3, or you can do chain 2, or however many chains you need for the height of the stitches you're instructed to work. So I'm doing a chain 1 because I'm working single crochets. So if my pattern, for example, tells me to work 8 single crochet stitches, I'm only going to work a few of them, and I'll explain why in a second. So I'm going to do 4 of them instead of 8 to start out. And again, like I said, you're going to be working over the ring and you're going to be working over the tail. You can see both of them are here. Okay, you're going to pause after a few stitches. The tail is going to get twisted around the ring. You don't want to finish all your stitches around a twisted tail because it's going to bunch up and it's not going to shrink your circle like it should. So don't let the tail twist very much. I just worked a few stitches and then I stopped, and I'm now going to untwist my tail and smooth this out. Because like I said, you don't want to crochet over too much of a twisted tail, because at the very end, it's going to be all bunched up inside your stitches and it's not going to shrink your opening like it really should. Now that I've cleaned that up, I can then finish the a number of stitches I'm supposed to work, and my example for this tutorial is going to be 8. So now I'm going to finish working the number of stitches I'm instructed to work. Oops, lost my hook there for a second. Okay, so I believe that's 8. Okay, so now once you've finished working the number of stitches that you are instructed to work, you can then check your tail again. If it started to wrap around your ring, go ahead and fix that again. So I have fixed it. And then this is the fun part. The fun part is now where you get to pull this tail and you'll get to watch this shrink. So go ahead and pull on it, and you pull nice and tight. You'll see that shrink up nicely. Now you can see that my last stitch is close to my first stitch. At this point, I can then work in joined rounds, or I can work in continuous rounds, whatever the pattern is calling for. But that is how I make a magic ring. Hopefully you found this tutorial helpful.